Hello, lovely to be with you again. My curtains are still drawn, so I have the main light on because it's sunny out and the sun beats in my living room window, something chronic in the mornings, so I keep the curtains pulled. That's why I have the chandelier on. I don't know if you can see it. Oh yeah, there you go. I need some extra lighting whilst the curtains are drawn. I was going to talk to you about a particular object this morning, and then that triggered a train of thought, and I now have a whole load of objects to talk about. But the object I was going to talk about was that. Now, how many of you out there know what this was or is, because it's still usable? How many of you know what this object is used for? It was silvered at one point, but most of that's long since gone. You can see on the, you can't really see, but there's traces of silvering on the prongs of this thing. But it's now mostly color of the original material, which is brass. So how many of you know what this was used for? I don't know whether any of you out there has even got one of these. How many of you out there got one of these? Fact of the matter is, it's a bread fork. For those of you that buy unsliced loaves, when you get down to the nub end of a loaf, you don't want to risk cutting your fingers with a bread knife, which is a long serrated job. So you have the bread fork and you jab that into the nub end of the loaf, and invariably when I do a video, clock chimes, sod's law, but it's a bread fork. Beautifully made object, and I notice on this, as well as the maker's mark, it has stamped on it Prince of Wales feathers. So, pretty good quality. It's lovely quality, actually. It's very nice, very usable. Late Victorian, Edwardian, I would guess. Beautiful, beautiful. My original bread fork that I used, or used to use, is that. Very basic, very plain Jane compared to the other one, but perfectly usable. And away you go. But I now have a much better quality bread fork. That's what it is. It's a bread fork. See, here's another object. Anybody out there know what this one is? In actual fact, it's a jam spoon. It's a spoon for getting right down to the bottom of a jar of jam, or use it for chutney, preserves. And it saves using like a teaspoon and then getting jam all over your hand, because you're trying to delve down to the bottom of the jar. It's a jam spoon. Very functional, very usable, well worth picking up if you can find them, if you eat a lot of jam, which I do. Well, I don't eat a lot, but I eat a bit, but I make a lot of jam. In actual fact, I don't know if I've told you, but I am village champion for jam making. So, jam spoon. See, there's another one. not quite so long, but beautifully decorated, beautifully made, and very usable. I love to see these things, these old pieces of kitchenalia and stuff, because they're beautifully made. The late Victorians, Edwardians and so back, beautifully made, made to last a lifetime, and they do last a lifetime. Whereas everything we have now is just, well, we live in a throwaway world, and I find it very sad. I like the nice, functional, usable things that are going to last me. And you invariably have to buy older stuff. Trying to see what else we got here. Now you should know what these are. I don't use them for what they're intended. They're actually ice tongs for ice. I actually use them for excuse me, use them for things like pickled onions. They're ideal for that. And talking of pickled onions, there's a ideal fork for pickled onions with tines on the end of it. Nice and long, so you can get right into a jar. Stab the onion that you want. It's got barbs on the end. Beautifully made again, beautifully decorated. Just a nice usable object that once you got it, put it in your drawer in the kitchen, it'll last you forever. I don't need to get another one. This one, that's it. See, there's another one, not quite so long, with the tines on the end again. And I would say that's, looks like a piece of antler or something. But again, nicely made, gonna last you a lifetime. Here's something slightly different, but does the job. Stab a pickled egg or a pickled onion with that, and just on your plate. No need to use your fingers. Perfect. Does anybody know what that is? Mystery object again. It's like a ladle with holes in it. Beautifully made. High time I give it a clean. Probably at one point looking at it, it was like the bread fork. It was silvered at one point, which is long since gone. Long since gone. Fact of the matter is, it's a sugar sifter for when you have something like a bowl of fruit or a bowl of strawberries. Put some sugar in that and sprinkle it over your strawberries. Ideal item to have on the table for an afternoon tea. Nicely made, beautifully functional, last your lifetime. Sugar sifter. And they come in all sorts of designs and patterns. Here's another one. Slightly bigger holes than this one. I would be worried with this one that a bit too much sugar would come out. It's still very nice, very usable. Look at the way that's been made, isn't that beautiful? Very, very small ladle. Now what would you use that for? Probably something like, my eBay going off, you probably hear that. Probably something like sauce of some kind. Sauce ladle. Just you want just a little bit. So you have a very small, very beautifully made ladle. Here's another one with antler. Probably goes with that. Probably a set of these, I would think, somewhere along the line. What's that used for? Anybody out there know what that's for? Looks a bit like a very small shovel. You guys will find it's high time I give this a clean as well. In fact, that's a Stilton scoop for Stilton cheese. Not that I eat Stilton. I don't eat any cheese these days because I'm allergic to dairy products. So cheese for me, sadly, these days is out. I miss it terribly. But that's a Stilton scoop for Stilton cheese. Going through the contents of my kitchen drawers. I'm not sure exactly what that's for. It's got a fish on it. I think you can just see that. It's got a fish on it. So obviously something to do with fish and eating fish. I mean, I'm sure you don't eat with it, and it's too small to be like a fish slice. So I'm interested to know what that is, exactly what that was used for. If anybody out there knows what that's used for, I'd be delighted to hear it. Something to do with eating fish, but exactly what, I couldn't say. Whilst we're talking of fish, any of you out there know what that's for? It actually, first look at it, you'd think it was possibly a marrow spoon for getting the marrow out of ox bones and stuff. People in years gone by, they used to eat a lot of marrow from bones, but it's not a marrow spoon. As you can see the design in the center there, it's actually a prawn in the center. I'll give you a clue what it's for. It's actually for picking the meat out of crabs. And I gotta be honest with you, I've not had this very long. I've not used it yet. And the person that gave it me keeps asking me, periodically when she sees me, have you used the crab picker yet? And I keep saying, no, I'm sorry, I haven't. But that's what it's for. Perfect tool for getting the meat out of crabs and the meat out of the claws. So I will get around at some point to using it. How about that object? Anybody know what that object's for? Perfect for what it's designed for. I believe now they don't use these. In fact, It's used for cleaning buttons. Well, not used for cleaning buttons, but you have buttons on a jacket. So you slip that behind the button, then you can clean the button on the jacket, military jacket, and you don't get any of the cleaning solution or whatever polish you're using. You don't get it on the jacket. It's to keep the polish and the cleaning solution off the jacket. You just slip it behind your buttons. But I believe now buttons now on military jackets, they don't need cleaning. What do they call them? Stay bright or something, I think. So that's redundant, unless you're a collector and you've got old military jackets. I suppose you could warrant using one of these to keep the buttons clean, but that's what it's for. It's for buttons, cleaning buttons. And finally, before I go and leave you all self-isolate, if you saw this object in a charity shop, would you buy it? Would you like it? I saw this quite a few years ago now in a charity store. Couldn't make up my mind whether to buy it or not, so I left it. Then I went back some time later, and it was still there, and I couldn't make up my mind. I wasn't sure, do I like that? So I left it for a second time. Then I went back a few days later, and it was, believe it or not, it was still there. Nobody had bought it. So I did buy it. Still wasn't sure what I made of it, what I thought of it. I only gave a couple of pounds for it, so it wasn't much. So I put it in my cabinet and thought no more of it. It wasn't till a considerable time later that I saw something on the internet very similar, and so that started me to look in to this. And the fact of the matter is, it's a Lotz vase made in Bohemia, which is now Czech Republic, designed by a guy called Mr. Powolny, Michael Powolny. They call it Tango glass. The colour is actually, they call it Mandarin yellow. Probably wouldn't be half the vase it is without the black stripe around the top. If it was just all plain yellow, probably really wouldn't look half as effective. Made circa 1920. So what do they call that period, 1920? Art Deco, Art Nouveau, that sort of thing. You can tell it's Lotz glass because it's got a lot of flaws in it. I don't know if you can see any of the flaws in it. There's a flaw there, look. There's some more at the top. There's a big flaw. Loads glass is always riddled with flaws, as you can see. You can see another one there, look. But it's grown on me. It's grown on me, I gotta say. I'm glad I bought it. I'm not sure exactly what it's worth. The comparisons I've sort of seen on the internet, it's got to be at least into 3 figures. It's got to get me at least 3 figures. I wouldn't like to say exactly what, but a good investment for £2. A good investment. Loads glass, Bohemian glass from the 1920s. So it sits in my cabinet under lock and key. I don't very rarely take it out the cabinet because I'm terrified of dropping it and busting it. So this is the first time it's been out the cabinet in a long time. But you never know what you see in the charity stores. Obviously I'm not going to be going around charity stores or whatever at the moment because of the lockdown situation. So I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all avoiding the virus. Something else I was going to say, but it's forgotten. I've forgotten it now. That's my mind for you. But yeah, very nice. Thanks for watching.